and copy from one device. So in the areas where you only have a copier and a printer, you also need a separate fax machine to be able to fax. So there's multiple devices that you're having to manage and buy toner for that could be consolidated into one. So your total estimated cost right now is the $3320.78. And the last column represents migrating that volume from those single function printers, not all of them. It's not by all means taking out all of the single function printers. It's only the ones that are in close proximity and that have high volume in those areas. So you would go to $27.95 for your Icon contract. Your toner cost would drop to $221 approximately per month for the remaining lower volume printers. And there's an illustration there of your cost per copy, the difference. You would still be paying .0059 for anything printed on a Ricoh copier, and the print shop would be .0035. So you can see a pretty dramatic drop in cost per copy from anything run on the big production machine in the print shop. And your color copies off of the multifunctional devices would drop from 9 cents to 4.5 cents. So all your color copy costs would drop in half. And then the functionality basically is you go from just copy and print to full color copy, print, scan, and fax. And you'll see that you realize cost savings of a little over $300 a month. And that's a pretty conservative estimate considering that we're basing that on a 5% fill for your toner usage on those printers. So we typically see at least a doubling of that savings as we move through the process and start to migrate that volume and teach end users how to maximize the devices. Anybody have any questions?
This says no-brainer, is it?
My other question is the learning curve. I mean, so how long does it take for your office staff, your teachers, and whatever, to come up to full speed to be able to actually use it for all its capabilities?
The elementary kids up here.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right. That's absolutely
come out
right.
and teach them.
And Mike, it's funny because you have no idea of the fact that I mean I come across that all the time, and the learning curve too. And it's funny because I do, when I run these numbers, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so, it's so fun to be able to present options that really actually work and that come to fruition, that savings actually comes to fruition. With regards to, and yes, it is no-brainer as it looks, honestly, because it's really expensive. Anybody who owns a printer at home, who uses it with any regularity, gets sticker shock every time they have to buy a new toner cartridge, because you're like, $80, really? I mean, and you're probably using it, I mean, obviously way less than the school would. Speaking to functionality and the learning curve, the Ricoh devices are designed to be extremely easy to use. And I can honestly say, and I would never say this unless it were true, everybody who I've taken from Canon copiers to the Ricoh copiers has absolutely loved them. They're easy to use. All of the things you need to access are on the first screen, whereas with the Canons, they have a layered menu. So you're pressing this, and then it goes to another screen, then you're pressing that one, it goes to another screen. So you've got to go about 3 or 4 layers deep to get to what you need to do, whereas these devices have everything basically on that front screen.
The school used to have Ricoh products before when we went with H&H, right before we went to Icon. We switched from Ricoh to Canon, and Sarah loved Ricoh, found it to be a much better, more reliable, user-friendly machine. And so, you'd be putting in a machine that the staff is fairly familiar with.
And then
part of the learning curve, I just want to know, is how Gary sets up the networking.
Well, and Gary and I have been talking about that too. Yeah,
he can just click, click, click. This is your first,
exactly.
Your printer choices. Click, 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 and people learn what the screen says. And
exactly. Yeah, the printer driver is going to look a little bit different. In other words, that's the box that pops up when you say click print. That's going to look a little bit different. But again, they're designed to be very user friendly. So there's lots of logos and there's lots of ways to customize it so that every time you open it, you know exactly where you want to go. The device is very customizable as well. So if the majority of people walk up to the machine and make single-sided copies that are collated and stapled, we can have that be the default. So everybody who walks up to it gets a single-sided copy that's collated and stapled. So they're very customizable in that respect. They're also customizable as to what buttons show up on the device, so, you know, you could say, okay, well, nobody's ever gonna do this, so let's get rid of that button on there, so that it minimizes the choices or maximizes the choices depending on the department. There's also what's called a simplified display, so sometimes people are a little bit, you know, oh gosh, there's too many buttons on there. There's a simplified display which makes it narrows the choices and makes the buttons nice and big, so that they're, you know, basically you've got 3 or 4 choices and that's it. So they're very user-friendly, and I mean, we took entire hospital fleets with hundreds of employees and were able to train and get them up to speed very quickly and had great response as to the user-friendliness of the devices. So the other thing that I didn't really mention is that we would actually take the next 7 months of your contract, and RICO's just going to absorb that. So there's no, you know, this is basically starting a brand new contract 7 months early. The advantage to you guys is you get new equipment and more reliability, cost savings, and brand new equipment, and more functionality. And RICO is looking at it saying, well, you know, Icon is a RICO company now, so RICO's saying, you know what, we'll take care of the buyout. You get new equipment, and everybody starts out with new equipment. We put it in over the summer, get everybody trained. I'll come in and do multiple training sessions with, you know, as many as we need to do to make sure end users are up to speed, and you're off and running. And then you can start that print migration strategy of phasing out printers that are expensive. And I've got all the data on every single printer that you currently use. So you can take that, and Mr. McGee and I and Gary and I can look at that and say, well, hey, let's just move this one over here because this one's less expensive to run. And we can start kind of moving those around to where you have a good idea of exactly how much it costs you to print on those devices. So I'm by no means saying just take all those and junk them, you know.
So the alternative to this is to wait the contract out and go ahead and put an RFP out like we did last time. But I would say that, you know, Icon was competitive the last time they were in this. They would be competitive the second go around. You know, it's your decision as to how you want to approach this.
In our agenda says, is this just for information only tonight?
It could be for information only. Well, on the agenda, it's an action item. So you could have it for information, you could take it as an action item to move to, you know, enter into a contract with Icon for the RICO product as presented.
If we do that, are we fulfilled our getting all the proper number of bids and all that kind of stuff?
Well, the thing about this is that the totality of the contract does not exceed $50,000 in value. Because it does not exceed $50,000 in value, you're not obligated to go out to receive competitive bids.
Because I was gonna say, I'm ready to say yes right now if we're not bound to do anything else.
I have.
Yeah, absolutely.
The one in the district office, will it also hole punch?
We did not configure that with hole punching, but we could certainly look at that. However, the 907, which is in the print shop, will hole punch.
Not this one we have now, but the one we had before, hole punched.
Right.
And that was great.
Okay. We could certainly look at adding that. It wouldn't add too terribly much. It would just be sort of a cost-benefit analysis. You know, how much do you hole punch versus, and we might look at too, what is the cost of actually purchasing hole punched paper? Because you can get pre-hole punched paper, which again, I just don't know what kind of volume you do that's hole punched. Really enough to make it be something you want. And would it be something where you could send those projects to the print shop, or is it something that you need immediately?
Yeah, this is most air board packets and stuff like that.
Sure, okay.
So could I would it move to upgrade our current Icon contract to the new RICO printers as presented?
Yes.
I'll second that.
Further discussion? So what you're telling me is that you're gonna buy out, or they're gonna eat the contract for
Yes.
7 months
Yep,
and start, so that over the summertime, we can get the new ones in and.
yeah. And then Gary and I are gonna work together on, you know, placements and making sure everything has what's called a network drop, which is its ability to be a printer. And I know that there's already some plans, correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. McGee, but there already are some plans to do some infrastructure and some, there's other network issues that are gonna be addressed, and Gary was talking about maybe just doing those at the same time. But
Well, yeah, we do have a couple of network drops that we have to add in. So because of our wiring contractor that we use for those network drops, we would include these items on this list of things to do when it came to next time.
Sure, sure. So yeah, we worked together over the summer to make sure everything's put in place, make sure there's, everything's moved and where it needs to be, and then start the school year off with training for everybody. And I'm your sales rep, but I'm also your trainer and your go-to person for all things operational. So it's an ongoing process, and then we work together to institute the print migration volume, or the print volume migration and those further cost-saving strategies.
Okay, so we had a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Call for the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Well, thank you.
Very
I
much.
appreciate your time.
Good. Okay, then we want to approval of the minutes.
Okay, Julie was going to be here with the warrants list. It's like I said,